And we're live,
Put it down, down.
theoretically. All right. Event not started. Why? Okay. Connected. Facebook is connected.
Yeah, I just saw it. Come on.
Okay, good. Good. I look so anemic in my video. Like, what is
And
anemic? Yeah. I got an iron deficiency.
more iron. Yeah. Molasses. Eat more molasses.
Is that it? Now it's gonna look like I got a bad sunburn, but I guess it's better than being anemic. Like I have rosacea, but again, better than anemic.
Rosaceous. So, what are you? What are you playing with?
The just
The white balance.
the doohickey. Well, yeah, it does look like I've got some bad acne right now. Oh well, it's kind of on brand. Greetings, good morning, Kushal, Kabir, Mike, and
Mike Williams.
Asit. Good to see y'all. Yeah, okay, so it's working. Something had gone wrong. I hadn't been streaming to Facebook for 3 weeks.
I mentioned it a couple times, and you're like,
I was like, oh no, it's I see it on the restream chat.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I was like, all right.
I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. Okay, Jamie wannabe. All right, so we are going on this 13-week long rabbit trail. My slideshow called Mastery of Craft and Action, a hypothetical framework for application and evaluation in 2020. And we stopped at this weird slide, which I'm like writing on. You know, it's like on John Madden when he'd write on the screen, like, you see the lineman here. This is my version with pseudo-intellectual self-help psychophysiology. So we're
X's and O's, baby.
we got this flow state. Flow charts are old hat, man. They're cringe. Okay, we're going flow state. That's based. And from flow state, instead of algorithms, we're going back to the source of algorithms, alcohol. Actually, his name was what was his algorithm or something like that.
You know the etymology better. Like,
Yeah, and so I took that guy and we mixed him with alcohol, so it's alcohol algorithm. So you get a little bit of the computer program with a little bit of the supersonic holy spiritual of Carlos Santana when he's drunk and high and playing guitar really well. So all those things together, we're looking for an adaptive artistic algorithm. That's another way of putting it. A little less artsy-fartsy way of putting it. And with an emphasis on incrementalism. So a self-help routine that's focused on just tiny baby steps and little wins, trying to build up inertia over time. And then what I have not done well this week, I think both me and Judah have had a little bit hard time with the morale the last couple of weeks. What I haven't done well this week is quarantine my demoralization. I've just let it spill over into every area and become very pessimistic. Yeah, demoralized. So that's kind of catching you up where we are here. This attempt at coming up with a self-help routine that the problem with the self-help routine, in my opinion, is you end up, there's a Benedict Arnold inside that does not want to see you succeed. The pessimist, the inner pessimist. And there's also a kind of like a crony capitalist inside that kind of wants to succeed, but at the wrong way. You know, he just wants to, he's willing to sell out at any cost. And so it's like, but you can't blame that dude when you're at the bottom, right? When the bills are piling up and the tax man's on his way. Oh man, taxes are coming up here.
I'm hoping that see, that's the problem though, is like you're a pessimistic dude. I'm like eternally optimistic, which can be really bad when things just keep going wrong, you know?
Right.
It's like when you're continually optimistic and but like optimistic and like, I don't know how it's gonna come together, but
it's gonna come together. It's this
And
plucky.
then it doesn't. You're like, oh,
wait a minute.
And then it doesn't again. Oh,
I don't know.
It's fine.
It's exactly. It's literally like the dog in the dumpster fire, house fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. We started watching that show Trigun, that anime. My buddy Aaron, he was the toothsome guy, the guy that played the toothsome energy drink. So he really liked Trigun. So we were watching it, and really that's kind of the plucky. It's this plucky, dopey looking character that's kind of this. He's kind of like a Buddhist vigilante, which is an oxymoron in and of itself. A Buddhist vigilante mingled with like the whimsical sidekick, you know. And so it's like Batman and Robin rolled into one. And so he just seems like he's this goofy guy, like, oh, but everything always works out. It's like every episode's a Deus Ex Machina, but somehow he has something to do with it, you know. So it's like it's Jekyll and Hyde, and he's somehow hiding that he has a trick up his sleeve the whole episode.
And so I think that is, I'm no anime expert, but I'm starting to immerse myself in it, and I'm seeing that's a regular theme.
Right.
There's the main character is either is somber and morose, and there's usually that like somber and morose, you know, it'll never happen. And then there's always the like kid-like character, the innocence,
Goku. Shoots from the hip, and it's just like, everything's gonna work out. Hey, yeah. Like I've almost kind of started seeing it as Japan's like kind of ironic interpretation of America, like this plucky sort of like, oh, everything's gonna work out fine, man. But really, there's something else kind of looming. Like the guy really doesn't know what's going on, and there is some sort of dragon fate looming, you know, that really is writing the script for everything. There's the eternal dragon. And I keep coming back just to the imagery within every piece of Japanese animation or video game. The imagery of Hiroshima, Nagasaki just keeps coming up in every single one. Just they're even in a cartoon to depict horror at its most like egregious and enormous and epic.
Enormous, yeah.
Yeah, so there's always a world of ruin. Yeah, overwhelming. Like I even went back and watched it didn't age as well as I thought it would, but the Final Fantasy X, the first time you see Sin, so the giant villain thing. I had never played the whole game, but like it's this weird quasi-aquatic beast thing that starts flying, and it whenever these things come there's just this the dread is palpable, you know. I think even people who never saw it, but they probably heard stories of how crazy it was. What was that? I gotta.
Was that me?
No, it's me. I'm sorry. I'll turn this off. Greetings, lords and ladies in the chat. Swepnil, how you doing? Would you please introduce your partner in the live stream? This is Judah, my buddy.
Hello.
He helps rein me in. I was just thinking about this. I started Surfing That Violinist podcast back in 2017 or something like that. It lasted maybe 4 episodes, and then we did. You started Reverse Redaction.
Well, you came on my Nada show for a couple times. Had a really good conversation.
Oh, okay. I totally forgotten about that. So Nada show was like that was probably before I even started the Surfing Violinist podcast.
I think so, yeah. And we had some really good conversations about the one I remember particularly was Star Wars, and you like really sort of expanded my imagination when it came to you're talking about technology and lo-fi and how physical things can't be hacked, and how cool that was, and how a part of the theme, because we were talking about
I'd forgotten about that.
Rogue One. We were talking about Rogue One.
Yeah, you're right, because that's when my desk was over here. I'd totally forgotten about that. So that was on Nada show. That wasn't even Reverse Redaction. You're right. I actually remember that, because one of the things I liked about Rogue One was the fact that in order to hack, they had to have a physical The Empire actually had a physical cassette, and which makes it difficult to hack. If it's in digital format, then people can use cryptography or whatever to hack in. But this, you actually would have to do a heist to get the thing out.
Physical, you have to be there,
right? And so I think there were elements that were more. I know some people didn't like that, and there's cringy elements of Rogue One for sure. But that element, there was a certain. It got back to Lucas's very tactile world building that he did. It started with THX. Yeah, it started with THX. Like, you go back and you just get all of Star Wars is embedded in that first little short film he did at USC. And there's just something so tactile, and it's a different thing. Yeah, one of the reasons why he made much more money than Philip K. Dick and all of the things that have spawned out of Philip K. Dick and William Gibson, the whole cyberpunk stuff, is because it's this plucky determinism in the face of the Death Star. Like, that's the whole idea of George Lucas's contribution is, and you get it in THX, and it's much more arty. But it still works. Like, it's like a no budget student film, and it's all there. It's all just like very compressed and lo-fi. But that was what was great about Star Wars, is there was a certain lo-fi element to it in the middle of all this technological progress, and part of that too. I've been thinking about that. I built this light this week. Let's see if you can see it.
Oh yeah,
it's a mixing bowl put on top of a 5 lamp, like $20 lamp you can get from Home
Depot.
Depot.
That looks a lot like mine.
Hey, did you do a mixing bowl too?
No, I actually used one of these, like
the clamp lights.
Yeah, clamp light.
So,
and then I used what did you use to cover it?
Wax paper, like cooking parchment paper. It's going to go up to 400 degrees.
The Plus EV Move is it can go up to 400 degrees. I used shower curtain.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's more luminescent.
That's yeah.
But
that's
I don't know how hot it can get.
Well, no, but that'll work for these because these are LED lights. 1,600 lumen per bulb.
Per bulb.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and then the wattage is like they're less than 20 watts or something.
Oh yeah, you did a video on when you bought that. I remember,
well, yeah, and I found they actually have an upgraded version of what I had then. So yeah, so this is the prototype, and we'll eventually. I think what I will do is try it with 2 halogen bulbs. You can get them 2 halogen bulbs, 8,000 lumen per bulb, for $10. So that's 16,000 lumens for $10.
Wow.
And then the issue with that is the heat is unbearable, and you have to be real careful with those halogen bulbs. If you get, I never pay attention to instructions, so I was using the bulb or trying to put it in, and I noticed it started smoking. I went back and looked, and they said you need to use latex gloves when you put this in, because the oils from your skin will get on the glass and it will heat up, and it will burn it and potentially breaking the bulb.
Wow.
And we have had issues with that. We used to use work lights when I was filming stuff originally, and actually blew up the glass in front of the work light. So yeah, you don't.
What's the benefit of using halogen over?
Just cost per like lumen per watt. It's the closest thing to industry standard. Because the industry standard lights, there's a reason why you pay $50,000 for a light, because it's like daylight in a can. These things are, if they're, and really in the business, in the actual filmmaking world, it's not really lumens that you're looking for. You're looking for lux, which is lumens over an area. So the fall off of these lights, you get 2 feet away from the light, and it's already like nothing. Yeah. So what you need is the sun. These things, man, that they have.
What you need is the sun.
Basically, what they have, like, I think I'd read that in one of these movies. Oh, man, I can't remember if it was No Country or one of them, or maybe it was Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. The cinematographer, what's his name? Deakins, the one that always works with the Coens. So they had like, oh man, I forget the terminology for this stuff, but they had the highest HMIs money can buy, and HMIs are kind of like the bread and butter of Hollywood lighting. And he had like, I can't remember, some ludicrous amount, and they basically could simulate daylight with this amount of with these like in a certain formation, So
just in this office, I've realized how interesting light is and how hard it is to manipulate, man. And it really is like money.
It's money, yeah.
Buying the power.
So what I'm trying to think, like, if I can take a mixing bowl, and find a way to outfit it that it doesn't burn the house down, like put four of those things, 32,000 lumens for, we're talking less than $60. Then, I mean, you just forget about buying any of these. Like the crappy lights I got off of Amazon, they still, per like wattage output, lumen per watt, are still better than what I made, but they're just not great. It's just not great. So
if you do all those incandescent though, won't you won't it get really hot?
Well, yeah, that's halogen's even worse than incandescent. So, but
you were gonna do halogen.
Yeah, halogen's like the worst. But yeah, LEDs are catching up. I mean, we're getting to the point now where, yeah, it's a wild world, man. Pretty soon the cameras will be able to be low light enough as it's going to compensate, and it's be good stuff. Yeah. So someone just said, Sludgy Poop Farts says on Twitch, I'm yet to see anyone surfing or even in a violin, but you're talking about light, which is interesting. Yeah, we run the gamut around here. We are the two of all trades, master of none, especially master of not making money. we're the anti how to rich
if you
dad
guys are
poor
trying
dad.
to learn how to not make money,
We've
come to
got
the right
you.
place.
Yeah. Go ahead and start playing violin, says Daryl. That's all I remember. Yeah, I actually got a wedding today, so we can't go forever. So I'm playing a wedding for a friend of mine, buddy. Actually, a little gig. Yeah, Sarah points out that Roger Deakins lost so many Oscar noms. I don't even want to. I'm going to redact that term from all memory.
Noms?
Oscar. I'll never. The Academy Awards do not exist as far as the surfing violins in our parallel universe. From now and forever, I will not mention the words Academy Award and Oscar. They are redacted. They are dead to me.
So I had talked to Jared about resurrecting or starting the next season of Reverse Redaction with the Oscars, but we were talking, and I brought up Parasite.
Oh, right.
I brought it up and I said, have you seen Parasite? He hadn't even heard of it, I don't think. Or he had heard of it, but hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen it. And the other ones, I don't know. We just thought like, nah.
I'm just tired of talking about them, man. Like, Sora points out that Deakins won for Blade Runner 2049 in 1917, which is great. Like, I want Deakins to get all the credit he deserves. Like, both of those movies look fantastic. I love Blade Runner 2049. Like, I loved it. And 1917, it didn't work totally for me.
I was gonna, because you mentioned it briefly last week, and you talked the week before that, you talked about going to see it. What did you not like? I love that movie.
I hate that whole continuous take gimmick. Like,
you didn't know that that's what it was gonna be?
No, I knew that I thought there was one or two in the movie, like the ones that they show on the trailer. So I did when I got there and I looked at my friend. And I realized that the whole movie was going to be a faux single take. Because they're never a single take, y'all. Like, they mask a cut every 30 seconds one way or another in a whip pan. Like, even I can do that. It's elementary school level stuff.
I found I think I counted 6.
There's probably 40, dude, at least.
I know, but I think there are a lot less in this one. Like, I think they really tried.
No, I'm telling, every time there's a whip pan, anytime the camera goes whoop, they can cover.
But I was looking for them, and there wasn't a lot of whip pans.
No, there were more than you were, because the illusion worked for you. You were interested in what was going on. But
That's true.
But I as a film nerd am just sitting there the whole time like, gotcha. And you're like, oh well, just suspend your disbelief for it. It's like I can't when the dialogue's not that good. Like as soon as Buddy Boy shows up from Sherlock, all I'm thinking about is Buddy Boy from Sherlock. And like I'm examining his performance. Like I don't know, it just feels so stagey. Like if you want to do a play, just do a freaking play. Like every time, honestly, to me, the best single take that I've seen in the last 20 years is from Joss Whedon's Serenity. It's the opening, and he even tells you where he masks the cut in a whip pan, and even that one does not hold up because there's something about a Steadicam. Actors don't have it's too complicated, and actors end up failing. So in that one, there's a couple interactions where that it doesn't read right. It feels like they're playing in front of a camera. Like if you want to direct a play, that's great. That type of acting's awesome. But on screen, everything is elaborated. I got to be in one movie. It was a movie called No Matter What. And it went to South by Southwest Film Festival. And I was overacting, which is typical Ford. And so Sherry Salter, the director, she's like, Ford, the camera's right here on the window. We were in a truck. The camera's right there. You can tone it down. Like you don't have to be operatic here. I want you to be minimalist. And of course, it was a mumblecore sort of influenced movie. So they're really going for that muted sort of thing. So I tried to rein it in. It's still, I was like, I think I was like a sore thumb in that movie. I'm like totally out of place.
That's why it irritated you so much. Yeah, I was overacting when we were doing
That's true. That was after. Yeah, you're right.
Squirrel Nami.
Well, Squirrel Nami is fine to overact. I mean, you're supposed to like ratchet it up for that, right? But there's something about the Steadicam thing that brings that out even more. And so there's just everything's telegraphed. Like when they start seeing the dog fight, and of course, it doesn't help that the trailer like spoils so much of that movie. But
I know
when the dog fight's happening, you just know exactly what's going to happen because it's this single take thing. Like as soon as the camera leaves the dude when he's taking care of the downed pilot, you know exactly what's going to happen. Like I don't know, man. It's just a predictable. Now, all that being said, I know I'm Mr. Cynical. Some of those Steadicam bits worked for me personally. Like that scene at the end, the most famous one, where he's like bumping into people running screen left as he's running towards the camera. That's a great like homage to one of the finest World War I movies ever made, Gallipoli with Mel Gibson, and because it's literally the same setup, but it's a different angle, and it has a happy ending instead of a sad ending. Spoiler, but it's those two moments are great moments in cinema history. Peter Weir, just god tier director, dude. Man, Gallipoli is one of my favorite movies ever made. It is one of the most heart-wrenching anti-war movies of all time. Probably up there with Grave of the Fireflies, speaking of anime. Those two are just sobering. On the one hand, we dudes need more. We kind of talk about this. We need something warlike in order to get us out of this crazy rut. But we don't want those kind of wars. Like we don't want them. We got to find some other way to prevent those things from happening. Maybe go back to David and Goliath. Like let's have a champion, and they can kill each other. Let's do a gladiator style. I don't know. I'm telling you, League of Legends, that's the future, baby. 5-on-5 team fights.
You know what there needs to be more of a physical element though. Like what happened to the Wii, man? Like the boxing in the Wii was like one of the best ways for me to get out. I was like hitting somebody and still using my arms.
Right.
I liked it a lot. Well,
I mean, it's happening. So John Carmack, I really highly recommend, one of my favorite, more normie podcasts. Rogan is kind of as middle of the road as we can all agree on, I guess. Rogan had John Carmack. I think I mentioned him, the guy that did Doom and Quake, and he's in charge of the creative side of the Oculus, and so that's coming. And he says, there's still some kinks they're working out, but the one he likes is the Beat Saber, because it works. Just what you're doing is what the character's doing. Yeah. It's very rhythmic. I think we'll have a boxing VR that's going to be pretty good, and eventually they will figure out some way. Maybe you'll have to sign a waiver or something like that, but get this pneumatic, where you actually get hit when you get hit, that kind of stuff. We need some pain to come in these video games. I think we need, the first thing that will happen. I think it's unfortunate, but the first thing that will happen before the pain is the pleasure. So you're going to get a lot of sex bot, pneumatic things and pleasuring devices. All that stuff's already available, but with the VR, it's going to take another. Literally, what Spielberg showed in a Minority Report is already possible. We're already there. It's just a matter of it, receiving some level of mainstream acceptance. But I feel like that's probably growing pains. We'll have to get through that. People are going to have to get bored with it. Just bored with all the nefarious sides of the internet. At a certain point, you get deep and down and dark enough in the cesspool, and you're just like, ugh, boring, but hopefully too many people won't get snared. But I think the violent part of it will actually be constructed, because one of the problems, playing League or Fortnite or any of the battle royales, any of these online competitive games, the problem is there's just no culpability for inting, no culpability for just talking shit the whole game. Yeah, I had this week in League, I had a guy take a jungle role, Lee Sin bot, as the ADC, and a Teemo was his support. And so the Lee Sin is talking shit about the Teemo taking his farm when he went Lee Sin ADC in this. It's just a blind pick. It doesn't matter. We're all level 10. We're just leveling, whatever. Who cares? But this guy is dying on this hill. This Lee Sin, it's and we could have won this game for sure. But he just constantly griefs this Teemo, who if you're taking a trash troll champ, you can't talk shit about him taking a trash troll champ. So, and if you're doing a trash troll strategy, you can't talk shit about him doing it. Everyone's just a hypocrite all the time. So there's never any culpability. Someone does something, it's just whoever talks loudest or whatever. And so the guy immediately goes to the online internet nuclear option, which is kill yourself, faggot. In real life, kill yourself. I want you to kill yourself in real life. It's that kind of shit, in real life, just would not play. It's oh, okay, let's go over here to the pain zone, mister. I've got my pain suit on, you got yours on? And there's some sort of cryptographic ability to make sure that he's got it plugged in, and it's verified, the Reddit thing, yes, this is truly me. It's he has to show, and then you beat the shit out of him. There's no culpability for any of this. Just people that never get called on their bullshit on Twitter and on video games. So yeah, but we got to make it through all this, and as long as lawyers and sentiment rules the entire infrastructure of the Western world, we're gonna have to put up with little bitchy, crybabies who are posing as real men. Okay.
Yeah, stakes, and that's one of the things I was hoping that we would talk about today is sacrifice.
Yes. Well, that's what. Yeah, that's literally what we're. That's the. So we're gonna go through the weeds here. Okay. We're gonna take a step back. I basically just screen crapped a lot of things. Screen crapped. That's about it. I screen diarrheaed so many of things I saw this week on Twitter and whatnot. And so we are taking a few steps backward here to get a bigger picture before we dive into the stoic turn. And I think it's going to be better than stoic, because I don't think stoicism has the answers we need for where we're headed. So first off, a guy named Jason Snyder, Cognazer, said, "Don't tell me about increasing productivity. Tell me about enacting a regenerative vision of personal and societal transformation. Speeding up a sick system is just destructive accelerationism. So this guy would be on the more optimistic side of the post-accelerationist nihilism, right? Like he's the cringe enthusiast, as you know, many accelerationists would say, like, oh, you think that we're going to get out of this without having to fillet Leviathan, ha 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 ha. But there's a growing number of these dudes, and most of them are in tech or in coding or something like that. And there's part of me that resonates with what they're saying. One dude, he responded to this. This is a small account. This guy just came swinging. He said, "Don't tell me about your hippie ideals. Tell me about your most brutal animalistic weaknesses and what the hell you're going to do with them except sticking your head in the sand."
Wow.
Oh, the thing is, the Jason guy actually followed the dude because it was a good check. It's like Curb Your Enthusiasm. You know, these the Larry David to your, optimistic
Hippie ideals.
Tell me about your most brutal animalistic weaknesses. So someone else responded and they said, sure, constantly engaging in small, pleasurable distractions. Whoa. That is me. That is me. Anytime I hit the wall with something I hate, usually something to do with accounting or fixing stuff, pleasurable distractions. Let me go check the bell icon on Twitter. And that's actually more demoralizing because there's nobody ever responded to it. Oh, let's see. Oh, no. Someone liked a tweet that you were in a conversation you were mentioned in. Didn't like your tweet. They liked the rebuttal to your tweet. So even your pleasurable distractions are actually like demoralizing too. And two, I create opportunities for self-critique and reflection and opportunities to change habit. I call it the Odysseus tied to the mast method. Like, I think that's really, really good. It's like, it's different than the Stoic strategy, which is just like, pretend this shit isn't there. Like, whatever the outcome of this, I don't care. It's kind of like it's lying to yourself. And if you do end up believing it, then you end up being like a cringe boomer. Like, I mean, everything that the okay boomer meme, like it ends up being where it's just everything's pat. It's like there's only one currency of success, and that is the amount of money you make. It ends up being very limited. You end up being a 7 of one trade and a connector of none, right? Like, you're still not the best at it. Like you're not Warren Buffett. So Who are you really lecturing here? Your self-help routine worked for you, but it's not going to scale. It's not going to apply to anyone else. So, whereas this is basically not repressing your actual desire or urge. I don't know, that Odysseus to the mask with the sirens imagery. And I really do think imagery is going to help us navigate this better than systematic structures.
So explain it to me. So Odysseus tied to the mast, kept his eyes open, but he couldn't act on his desire.
Right. So he basically, he told his men, dudes, we're going to go right through the sirens. I have to hear what they sound like. No matter what happens, no matter what I say, you do not listen to me. You're listening to my command now, not my command later. He puts wax in their ears to make sure that they can't hear the call of the sirens. And he is basically pleading for dear death. He's begging to go to hell just so he can, orgy with the sirens. And, I mean, we're going to, the temptations that await us in the future, if we start making, and this is why the doldrums are a good thing. If you are not steeled for what's coming, you are going to shipwreck because of the sirens. It's going to happen. So you need to be ready. And the thing is, you're not going to have any dudes that are going to hold you back. Like, so you have to have a soul and a spirit and a mind that are exceed the capabilities of a Stoic. Like, you got to be even more so. to resist what's coming, because it's coming if you're going to be successful in any area. And it's just the tale of this is the tale as old as time, like of the Caesar who goes out and the warlord or whatever goes out and faces his death and does not cower before a whole legion in front of him, comes back and on his victory march cowers before the look of one woman in the street. Like you gotta prep yourself. You gotta steel man yourself for what's coming. So in a totally different vein, Albie Layer, I pretty much watched this. This is when I like, some dudes have their pre-workout pump videos. This is my pre-surf pump video. It's Albie Layer's In Between Giants. And it's a music video, surf video, about 6 minutes long. Okay. And it tells the story, I think it's around 2015 or so, 2016 maybe. He had messed up his back very bad. So he's one of the psychos, him and a handful of other dudes, Billy Kemper and maybe Shane Dorian, I don't know. Like, maybe it all started with Dorian and In God's Hands around that time. I'm not really sure what the etymology of this whole thing was, but back in the day, around the time Endless Summer 2, the famous surf movie came out, this movement of people who started tow surfing. They would use wave runners to tow into places like Jaws, Peahi, I'm sorry I don't pronounce it correctly, on Maui, other places like Mavericks, these giant surfable waves that they were breaking too big to be paddled into. Like, you couldn't generate enough speed on your surfboard to stand up in time. So everyone started moving to this tow assisted big wave surfing model. And it just blew up. It became a big thing. But then a few years back, a group of dudes just said, let's just try it. Let's just try going back to paddling into this thing. So they started surfing Jaws paddling in again. And that place is just Jaws is a perfect name for it. It's a killer. And
did it kill anybody?
I don't know. I don't know if it's killed people, to be honest. I haven't really paid attention over the years. Back when the last time I really paid attention was there was a couple years in a row where people died on the North Shore of Oahu. There was after Fu died, a couple years later, there was this other guy, I can't remember his name, and he was a little bit new to big wave surfing. He died, I think he died at Waimea. And then a guy named Todd Chesser, he died at a place called Outside Alligators, which, oh man, I want to say it's near Pipe, but it's way out there. It's like a second reef. And he was a really, great surfer, very adept, but he was DOA. They tried like CPRing him in the water, and that story is just harrowing. But so not many people had tried doing the same at Jaws, and so Albie and some of these other dudes were doing it. Albie got hurt pretty bad, and in addition to trying surfing that big wave, he was trying to work on his air game, which is like the progressive form of surfing. You're trying to do a lot of skate-inspired airs and a lot of snowboard-inspired airs. And so Albie was kind of looking to the snowboarding world for inspiration. He was trying to do this. He calls it a 540. I tend to think it's closer to a 720, but surfers can never admit, that something is it's a sign of manhood to say it's smaller than it is, ironically. So if, it's a 20-foot wave, you call it a 10-foot wave. I don't know. It's just this weird thing. So like people call it a 540, and it's clearly more degrees spent than that, but whatever. They have this weird like less than math that they employ. So anyways, he was working on that. So in this video, it shows him working on trying to land these crazy twist airs and surfing Jaws. And it's just perfectly edited. It's one of my favorite pieces of cinema ever made. And it's just a surf video. But every time I watch it, like the music he picked was perfect. So it's just always my pump up video. But about 2 months ago, they had a contest at Jaws, a paddle in contest. You can see that helicopter there. And he paddled into wave, and Albie's kind of like, the man. He like really knows the peak and everything. He knows where the sets come in. We paddled for this one, and I think he just got a little ahead of himself. And you see him here start to look up like, Where's the pitching lip? Oh, it's going to land on my head. Just the notion these dudes survived this, I have no idea. But yeah, he was like puking. I mean, worried about like serious long-term damage. I mean, he had a bad couple months since then. So he wrote this week. So that was about 2 months ago. This is him. He got a chance to go back out to Jaws, survived, made a couple drops. And he said, gave surfing a try last couple days. I have to wear a helmet and can't last very long, but got a glimmer of hope. Might not be this winter, but there will be a day where it all comes together. Or not. Might just end up broken and brain dead, or that crazy guy at the end of the bar talking about how I was out there when they first started paddling that there Jaws wave. But hey, nothing that's a sure thing is ever worth the effort. And that right there, that's the crux of the issue we're facing here. Because on the one hand, we want to have a more stable risk management, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger approach to the investments, not just financial, but like health and safety wise. But at the same time, there's an element of risk in every venture. You when to strike, when to paddle in. That's the tricky one.
Yeah, and when, not just when, but if.
Right.
If
when and if.
Yeah, I guess that's still when. It's just trying to decide if it's worth the cost. So, like, if everything goes wrong,
right,
will you be able to survive?
How much will you lose? How much will you lose? And so Mark Fu, I mean, he's the patron saint of this the martyr of this big wave surfing sort of lifestyle. And he said if you're going, I'm going to get it wrong, but something along the lines to gain the ultimate thrill, you have to be willing to pay the ultimate price. And he did. He died doing what he loved. And so that's just like, it's a wake up call. Like, how serious do you want this thing? An interesting post someone posted in one of these groups I'm a part of. Shout out to Mises. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything libertarians or Austrian economists have to say, but I thought that this was an interesting analysis of the market cycle from through an Austrian perspective when it comes to the stock market. So not in terms of policy and all that, but just as a help to understanding how high time preference, if you're paying attention, you can actually profit off of. The Big Short was a good example of that. So he's talking about algorithms work off many variables and at a high frequency, as you mentioned, but they can only work off price action and price history. The data from this is more telling than you may think, as it is linked to fear and greed under supply and demand schedules, but most importantly, under time. All these patterns of price action are fractal and timeless. A look at a 4-hour chart will show you one cycle, whereas if you look at it under an hour, you'll see cycles that make up that 4-hour cycle. You will see the same no matter what the market or the time you're looking at, even at over 100 years ago. This is why their algorithm works all markets, not just one. It is looking for the trade setup that they consider a win. He's talking about big banks here and their investment strategies. Okay. Again, does not mean that they win every time. It just means that it works for their risk. So in this very strange monetary market that we inhabit, I mean, if you look at Robinhood right now, I mean, I can't even buy anything right now because it's so stupid. I mean, it's just such a runaway market. Like, when will this bubble end? Like, it's just been going up since 2009. When will it end? Like, you're afraid. Oh, a Bitcoin fell just a second ago. It might be a good time right now. This is not investment advice. Consult your financial advisor. But Bitcoin just literally dropped like 2 seconds ago to 98. It's tempting.
Holy cow! Yeah.
Yeah. But literally, you look at anything. I was like, oh, Tencent, the company that owns League of Legends. They're up 25% in 3 months. That's stupid. 25%? That's like 3 years, sort of. Like, what? Like, the market is out of control. Monster. Let's see what Monster's doing. 19% in 3. Please. Like, this is insane, dude. I mean, like, 12% a year is like a modest return in the real world. But we don't live in the real world. We live in crazy town. Maybe you should buy KT. The other Korean telecom, $10. It's down 11% in 3 months. Maybe now's a good time. It looks like it's tanking. Facebook, let's see where she's at. Up 10% in 3 months. Only 10% Facebook. Come on, man.
So when Facebook first came out, it was, I think it IPO'd. Is that what it is? IPO'd?
Yeah.
At 40, I think. I bought it at $40.
Really?
Yeah, I bought it at $40. Well, I bought like 3 shares.
3 shares.
Like
Yeah.
And then it went down to 19. I panicked.
You panic sold at 19?
No, I sold it at 20. As soon as it went back up a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta have balls of steel in that game, baby. You gotta
yeah. Well, this is
and you have to have capital. That's the thing. You have to have like this. You have to have this, gargantua, amount of capital behind you. I think of Skrillex's First of the Year, where it's the little girl's little fire starter. She's like the pedophile's trying to get her or whatever, and she's like and twisting around the air, and she's got this giant demon behind her. Like that's like that. There you go. That's how you play the market. You have to have a Leviathan of your own behind you, so that needs to come in the form of your own capital or somebody's subsidy, sugar daddy, something, because you're gonna panic sell. Now I did one good move. Did I tell you about that?
No.
Last week. So I bought the Peloton when it was about to tank because everybody was talking shit about Peloton being anti-women or whatever because they had that ad at Christmas. And so I was like, I'm going to do a Nassim Taleb and put skin in the game on this. I'm calling it right now. All of you full of shit. This thing's still going to go up. So I bought it at the worst time when it was actually just to prove the point. I'm buying it actually before it's tanked. Wrote out the tank and it was like 12%, so I sold right before it tanked again. So it wasn't bad, but it's just, I did the same thing one time with Snapchat. I just knew it's just, you just wait it out because the market is just, as long as we have a zero interest rate, negative interest rate bullshit, this quantitative easing and stuff, like it's just, the market's still going to, the bubble's still going to, so you either learn how to surf the bubble or you get the hell out,
Well, 2 years ago, what I started doing was I followed about 6 stocks. I think one of them was Snap. A couple of pot stocks and gold and something else I can't remember, but anyways, every time it was in the red I would buy, every time it was in the green I would sell, and it kind of worked out. It's just I was not doing it for a living and I'd forget.
Yeah, see, and that's the problem. Not financial advice for anyone. We're just two idiots. All right, we're like, you do not want to take financial advice from either of us. No. All right, so
but to get back to your point about this guy, I think the place that I've learned this the most, doing fantasy football. So a lot of guys do the daily fantasy football, and so I'm over here setting up like 5 lineups, right? Like $5 each. And so if I win one, I get $1 million, right? But but you probably gonna lose them all. I found out, of course, I found out, but the realization was that the guys that are serious about it, they get like 100 lineups. They put like 100 lineups of different combinations of different guys that might go off, and they do it every week, Right. And that, so to the point, that's what the banks do, they're looking at a portfolio.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas as they're assuming a certain amount of failure. Right. And they're just making it so that the failure is less than the win. The minus is less than the plus.
Right. And so, you look at, of course, there's the other strategy, the Munger Buffett strategy, which is basically wait. Go all in on a sure thing. And the thing is, the sure thing is when everyone else is panicking, when everyone else, like fear, uncertainty, and doubt have overrun the market, and you're sitting on this pile of cash. You've got your Leviathan just waiting there in the wings, and then you say ha, and you go in, swoop in, and buy Walmart at $42, and then in 3 years the $1 million you put in has had a 3 times return. So you try to go for those sure bets. And so it looks like you're not making as much incrementally, but you're looking for punctuated equilibrium.
Yeah.
I think the problem with people like you and me is we need to do the more, probably just take the, what do you call those things? The indexes, just like it's less
spread over
a period of time. You're getting 10% over a year or whatever, 12% over a year, as opposed to the possibility of 300%. But it's and this is the kind of thing that these financial advisors like Dave Ramsey will say. Yeah. It's just you really don't have the capital to compete with these dudes at that level.
Yeah.
Of course, the problem with that is that the market at this such low interest rate world, it's basically inflation is outpacing your money. So savings it's kind of, it's not really going to solve the problem. You're going to be treading water, basically.
I think that's another problem with you and I, is that we're bleeding, we're hemorrhaging,
Yeah, and I think so many people are, and that's why they hate capital, quote unquote. It's just like there's this feels like this and this is why this whole accelerationist the singularity is coming, in whatever form. Like it just feels like we're at the end of history.
It does.
So.
Real quick, just a thought I had driving home yesterday. So I heard about the Trump administration trying to get on, it seems like using, we both use Robinhood, right?
Yeah.
Somebody asked. So the Trump
not sponsored.
Trying to kind of use some of this Yang Gang energy, floated the idea of doing a stimulus incentive package for stocks. And I thought, I thought decent idea. I'm a closet fan of Yang. I think you are too, right?
No.
Oh,
full stop. No.
Okay.
Oh, I couldn't stand the Yang Gang meme.
Well, I kind of like the guy, but so the idea of stimulating, so if they do, regardless of what we think, if they do suddenly incentivize stocks and give a bunch of people money to go out and buy stocks, what do you think would be, where would the masses put all their money? Would they put it in the high dollar stocks, do you think?
I think most people just cash out,
Well, what if they can't?
What if it's like, it's like Citizen Kane. It's like Daddy Warbucks says, nope, you can't pull this money out until it's reached maturity. Like okay.
They got 6 months. They got to leave it.
Free basics. All right. Yeah. So let's see. What would people invest in? See, the problem is they should. Oh man.
What would you go right out? Like, what would your first impulse be?
This is why I'm just not a fan of the universal basic income idea. It doesn't matter if everybody does it; it makes the playing field moot. Like, so all it does is raise the ceiling. If the floor is raised, the ceiling's just raised. So it's just like self-help books that are, again, the type of ones that we're trying to rebut against. It's like if everyone follows this advice, it negates it, because what you're taking as a starting point is a prisoner's dilemma, where we're talking about finite resources here. So it's, I don't know, like I don't think it'll actually end up resulting in any kind of return. The only added benefit I would say is it would help some people learn how to play the stock market. That would be good. So as an educational form, I think that would be better than Yang's thing, because at least you understand. Yes, at least you begin to understand that it can be done. The reason, like one of the benefits for me, I haven't made money off of Bitcoin. I actually lost money off of it. But one of the benefits for me is it has shown me how to buy things. And I'm like indebted to people like Andreas Antonopoulos. I was like, oh wow, like and listening to him on these podcasts, realizing, well, shit. I mean, you don't even need a broker anymore. You can go out and buy this stuff for yourself. And so that realization was just like a lightning bolt. I mean, years after I should have realized that. So I mean, we're all normies in some way or another. So if you can find a a stimulus package that actually encourages individual action and sovereign choice, that's probably a win. So yeah, I think Trump's strategy would be a little bit better because at least there's some education in the vicissitudes of the market, as opposed to this sort of like, oh, here's your $1,000 that is immediately just going to raise your rent $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, like, immediately I would just, instead of trying to be cute, I just do what everybody else is doing, just for a little less time. I try to do it for a little less time, like as soon as everybody got it, invest in Walmart, or something like that.
Right.
McDonald's. What? I couldn't think of what.
Walmart. I mean, I don't. Walmart, if it takes a dip, Walmart's good. Apple. Amazon's not going anywhere for the next 5 years. Amazon. Facebook's not going anywhere because of Oculus, dude. I mean, they own Oculus.
I didn't realize.
Yeah. They own Oculus. Yeah, they bought it out. So I mean, that's a huge part of their portfolio now. Like before, I mean, I don't know, Facebook I felt was just like a dying entity. Twitter, there's probably a shelf life, but man, it's hotter than ever in terms of the interactions. I feel like, I mean, the thing is just, and it's due in large part. They can talk shit about Trump all they want, but man, that has been good for their brand.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was just a thought experiment.
So moving on from that's a financial thing, which is way out of our wheelhouse. Obviously, we're idiots when it comes to that. But moving into the mental health issue, which finance and mental health go hand in hand. So my dad, he's got these Christian periodicals he always gives to me, and so take this with a grain of salt. But I have a hard time reading them, and my dad's like, oh, he was like, I really want you to read this. And I was like, all right, I will. It's about mental health. I thought this was actually some interesting things said in this part right here. So relief of sadness and pessimism and the generation of solutions to nitty-gritty problems comes much more quickly and easily within such a context. And he's talking about like some sort of religious community context. So if where you're from is a temple or a mosque or a church, whatever the religious context, these people are obviously talking about church. So in that context, it kind of helps having the community. A priest or a pastor or something that's going to help you, give you some counsel for free, and you don't have to pay $100 per visit. It takes us as professionals a long time to get there. Whereas, a pastor will have this shared in an ideal world, in the world that this guy's living in, because now everyone's so itinerant. Like, I don't know how often there are people that really fit into this anymore. The next steps, building on a support, but this is the part that I want to focus on. The next steps, building upon a supportive relationship involving facilitating structured and disciplined living, implementing daily regular sleep and meal times. Oh, what a concept. Exercise and work. You said these key components might be dismissed as merely common sense, but when someone is depressed, such straightforward living disintegrates and they need input from outside to provide the structure and drive to achieve them. So draw up schedules and support people in sticking to them. Yeah. So this is where you can actually have like the Odysseus masked scenario. Like you actually do need somebody to help you when you're feeling this impulse to go back to the addiction, to get off the wagon again. And one of the things that one of my Indian viewers way back, the internet cycling guitarist, he said, Ford, it drives me crazy that you don't consider that your physical health is affecting your mental health. Like you need to drink water, dude. And I was like, you're right. Like I don't drink water. I just forget. I'll forget to eat. I'll forget to drink water. I get focused on whether it's like a destructive, like binge purge cycle, an autistic fixation on some video project, a social media debate, whatever. Like I just ignore the obvious thing. And so just like these guys are saying, sometimes it's not a spiritual or philosophical or psychological or existential crisis.
Right.
It's actually a physiological crisis, and you're just being dumb. And there's something about this vortex that actually it adds more, and it makes it worse.
Well, and that's the thought that came to me after last week was that when it comes to sacrifice, I think in terms of, oh, I'll sacrifice food. I'll it's the stoic aspect that I hate. I'll sacrifice alcohol. I mean, good things to sacrifice. Some things, sometimes I'll sacrifice, but I'm sacrificing the things that are easy for me to sacrifice. I'm not sacrificing excitement. Right? Like the idea of eating regularly is to me a sacrifice. Like that sounds incredibly boring, like the idea of the mundane. I'm not sacrificing.
That's the problem. Yep.
Yeah.
Me and you are the same on that score. So like when I started doing Chris Gethin's 12-week transformation or whatever that first time back in 2016, I hated, he had 5 meals a day and they were smaller portion sizes. I hated it. I hated this regimented, like only eating this much chicken and this much brown rice. It just tasted boring and blah, blah, blah. By day 12 or so, all of a sudden you start feeling good. So I think there's something to the regimentation that the more free-spirited among us are just, we chafe against, but really that is a starting point from which you can be more, you can, follow the rules like a pro, so you can break them like an artist. Problem is we just never even get, 3 steps into the rules. And so we don't realize there is an actual, our bodies are machines, like they're biological machines. So to treat them like spirits that are just, kind of come and go and with the wind, like this is stupid. This is unreal. And so but it is the biggest cross that I think a person like you or me bears, because we've gotten into so many bad habits. We have built our building blocks of, self-worth and good feelings out of sugar and caffeine and barbiturate, so it's just it's hard not to realize these things aren't just crutches to us. They are actually like building blocks of our psyche.
Dude, that's the
problem.
That's the problem.
Yeah. So, and that's what bugs me about anyone when they're talking about a porn ban or some shit. It's like, okay, you get rid of porn, you have like 85 other types of porn. It's the same thing. Me playing League of Legends when I don't need to be playing it, that's still porn. It's not like I'm not looking at a girl, but it's still pornography because it's distracting me from the thing I need to do. Now, is that video games always porn? No, I don't think so. And you find, like you say, you find arbitrary things that aren't really that important to you that make you miserable. But you basically, as soon as you pull that thing out, all the other things that that are more socially acceptable and don't make you feel as guilty, like you justify those building blocks of your, pathology, basically. And you keep those.
Yeah. Well, and I tend to migrate towards the negative, right? Cutting things out, not doing things, instead of the positive, doing regimented things.
Right.
What is it called? I don't even know the name for it. Budgeting.
Budgeting. Yeah. Oh,
budgeting, man. That, to me.
Oh, golly, dude, you want to know what the cross looks like to me? You want to know what death and dismemberment looks like? It's budgeting. That term,
yes. But go to hell.
Go to hell, and that's where we're going. So we'll go on through a couple things here. So I'm sorry, chat. Like I got like 85 slides here. I want to actually get through this so we can kind of move out of the surfing violinist in beta to get to season 1. This has all been the intro season, a whole year of listening to me and Judah go back and forth in this giant circle. We're just like, we've been like edging Dante's Inferno. We're just, I don't know. So yeah.
You guys are the beta testers.
Yeah, the beta tester. I haven't go through this. At this point, we're all beta. If we're edging Dante's Inferno, you got to like take the Inferno pill and dive in. Okay, so Logo Daedalus, he said this last week. Oh man, golly, it's only been 5 days. Jeez, this has been like a whole year. All right, so he said this: the irony of Jordan B. Peterson's situation is that his trust your psych meds take was by far his worst one, and is exactly why he's having to detox from benzos. The pharmaceuticalization of quote-unquote mental health, already corrupt form of spiritual welfare, is too deep a problem for him. If Foucault is right about anything, it's that we should question the medicalization, biopolitics, etc., of all human concerns. But this is merely an extension of the end of history. The sick animals get detained, diagnosed, or destroyed. Jordan Peterson and the factory farm. Just keep your cage in order, bucko. So, and then I said, this is where I found you need a lift, that's Ulysses on the right there, take to be accurate. I still have a soft spot for JBP. He was caretaker of a halfway house when I was so hypnotized in a navel-gazing spiral of nihilism to even move about the cage. For me, he was eubic, preservative, not transformative. So JBP helped me realize there was a way out of this weird hellscape that I was in, post-Christian, post-church, and post any modicum of respect for any politician. Like, just totally unmoored, drifting into the maelstrom. How the hell are we going to get out of this thing? And JBP came and said, here's some Ubik. Hold on, buddy. Hold on, bucko. So this was Ulysses' tweet back in October, right after JBP, and this is so mean, so just brace yourself if you're a JBP fan. Ulysses is the enfant terrible. Sorry for my terrible French. The falsity of Jordan Peterson's ideas is made fully clear by his life and his family's. As we speak, he's banging his head on the walls of a padded cell while his drug-addicted daughter is leaving the father of her child for a gym coach. Stop defending him. This dork has been going on for years about masculinity and composure and is now having a meltdown on live television because some anime avies said some mean things to him on Twitter.com. Pathetic. His existence is a thorough refutation of his ideas and of all he stands for. Oh my gosh, dude. Can't you just mince it a little bit, man? Come on. At Jordan B. Peterson, if you can read this, remove yourself from the discourse. You're actively harming your reheated mashup of Jung and Campbell by showing what kind of individual subscribes to such ideas. They only attract incels and boomers who end up in the psych ward. Okay, all that said, let me go on to a little more positive take on JBP's situation from at MRD1. Following God on SSRIs will lead to powerful psychosis. They are naturally paradoxical. This is good stuff. The duality evoked from Christianity, suppressed, will cause absurd demonic impressions. This is beyond a trial. This is the beginning of Peterson's schizophrenic trial into the dark brotherhood. I say this with high esteem. His processing of unconscious artifacts lays in polarity with the dynamic Christianity Jungians won't achieve peace through Christ. As much as the subordinate I may wish for relief from the burden of the self. I have no idea what that means. He must move forwards and attempt reconciliation of higher texture or face complete annihilation. Not many can process the depths of what Jordan is hearing, but believe that it is quite literally hell. His tragedy ends with the death of Jordan. He knew this. Nothing but admiration. If he chokes and cocktails till his finality, no, it was too early, not that he was too weak. Jordan is the first public initiation since Jung. Those are some really interesting words. I've gone back and listened a little bit more of Jung since these last couple of weeks, and I think I mentioned him last week. And I'll do another plug. I plugged him this morning or last night. His essay on Wotan. You just have to read it. Someone brought up that when Mussolini met Hitler face to face, Hitler said that he was possessed not by a demon himself. He wasn't possessed by a demon, but by an ancient Aryan god. And Jung was not privy to that interaction. And Jung, before that interaction was uttered publicly, predicted, and what he said was that Hitler was either the reincarnation of Odin, Wotan, or he was possessed by Wotan. So, and he predicted World War II. Neglecting all this stuff, just saying, it's just lucky guesses. There's some weird shit going on. People are like, humans have some ability, whether you chalk it up as just, some sort of alchemical weirdness, luck, poker playing sort of thing. I don't know, man. But they may be wrong about the way they arrived at the conclusion and the way they systematize, whether it be in terms of astrology or alchemy. But the proof is in the pudding. Something weird's going on. Humans have some sort of ESP, and to suppress that and pretend that it's all just material, yeah, we're on the cusp of something here, and we neglect that to our peril. Okay, I'm sorry. We're gonna have to just. I'm running out of time.
Yeah, you gotta go.
Do you have a few more minutes to get through the rest of this? Okay. I found this. I really feel like the only way we get out of this is by action, but it's by action that is well invested, by a more humble sort of action that takes its time. I think an incremental approach, rather than looking for the big ticket item, rather than looking for the Munger Buffett sort of strategy where you wait, we're going to go all in on one thing. I think for us in a bad position where we just don't have any all-in capital to invest anyway, small bets, small wins, hedging not just our financial bets, but our emotional, creative, artistic, craftsman bets. So I'm reading this pretty good book. It's interviews with these directors. I can't remember the name of this director. But he said, I didn't really have any favorite filmmakers growing up, although I did like Stanley Kubrick. In high school, I did my own adaptation of A Clockwork Orange. I also did a comic version of Hamlet. So on the left there, this is a little bit from my next base Bollywood episode. Viru is one of the characters in the Bollywood film Sholay. So Viru in this moment is one of my gurus. Maybe he's not yours, but you have them. But don't just endlessly hide in those fascinations. Study them, copy them, remake them, adapt them, kind of like this guy did with Hamlet and with A Clockwork Orange. And finally, make something totally new that invokes the kind of feeling you had when you first experienced it. Maybe it's Doom, maybe it's Red Dead Redemption, maybe it's Cowboy Bebop, maybe it's Firefly, maybe it's Final Fantasy 6 or 7, maybe it's Bahubali, maybe it's Captain America taking up arms against the god of death. I don't begrudge you the source of your inspiration, but the story is the same. Stand up, quit waiting, throw the coin into the wilderness. Whether we succeed or fail, Kefka, Gubber, and Admiral Holdo are going down. Shadow MRD1 says, consider it good fortune if you're chosen to receive infinite terror. And let not those who dwell of the herd release you from your duty. I don't know what this next part is from. He told me this dude. I'll read some of it. On the other hand, without the educative forming by work, terror remains internal or private and mute, and consciousness does not come into being for itself. Without work that transforms the real objective world, man cannot really transform himself. If he changes, his change remains private, purely subjective, revealed to himself alone, mute, not communicated to others. And this internal change puts him at variance with the world, which has not changed, and with the others who are bound to the unchanged world. This change then transforms man into a madman or a criminal who is sooner or later annihilated by the natural and social objective reality. Only work, by finally putting the objective world into harmony with the subjective idea that it first goes beyond it, annuls the element of madness and crime that marks the attitude of every man who, driven by terror, tries to go beyond the given world of which he is afraid, in which he feels terrified, and in which, consequently, he could not be satisfied. But if the consciousness forms the thing by work, without having experienced absolute primordial terror, it is merely in its vain intention or self-will for the form of the negating negativity of the consciousness is not negating negativity in itself. And consequently, its act of forming cannot give it consciousness of itself as the essential reality. I'm sorry, I should put this in. You probably can't even read this. It's so tiny. Here, I'll put this in the chat. I forgot to do this earlier. Sorry, guys. This is the presentation. We are on page. Facebook's not going through anyway. We are on page 47 in this document, in this slideshow. Since okay, I kind of lost the thread of where he's going with. Stubborn capricious still remains with the bounds of slavery. Its intention or self-will is then stubborn capriciousness, a freedom that still remains within the bounds of slavery. Huh. See, so in order to, if you are conscious that something is bullshit in your line of work, in your religion, in your society, in your political structure, if you are aware that it's bullshit and you repress that, you are going to turn out to become a capricious person. You're going to find ways to kind of like buddy up to what you know is an entity within the system just so that you can get ahead and get revenge because you know these people are full of shit. And that's where JBP is right. Like, it's just that ends up being an unsatisfactory compromise. Like, you end up just being miserable even when you succeed.
Yeah.
You got to transform the world too.
I mean, the thing that really, is it keep going?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so the world which he is afraid, in which he feels terrified, in which consequently he could not be satisfied. That's what we're talking about earlier, is like, if someone said, dude, in order to get better, you've got to like join the war and fight people, and like, I think I could do that. But if somebody says, Judah, in order to get better, you have to start eating 3 times a day with your family, and set up a plan for your financial future. And then that's where I'm like, can't do it.
I honestly feel like, so I took it was much more on the Christian side, like the missionary sort of mindset the first time I went to India. And there were people that were also on one of these trips, and they were like, oh man, I just miss America. And the whole time I'm like, why? Why? And I didn't realize till many years later that for me, that whole Christian LARP was just escapism. Like, I was running away from my problem. And I think this is what frustrates a lot of like Indians. It frustrates a lot of people from other areas because they realize that you're just fetishizing their culture to escape your own bullshit. So, you realize there's something problem at home, or there's a problem in your personal life, or there's a problem in your religion, and you just, and see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. I'm going to go tell everyone else how great this is. So you just become like a salesman, but it allows you to see great things and you get to escape. So I cannot tell you how much of this, what looks like philanthropy, is just pure escapism masquerading as self-sacrifice. Because when, like you said, and the same thing with war, like, it seems like, oh, it's terrible. These boys, they're going out, they're fighting for us. It's a hard thing. It's like, yeah, but you don't have to do anything. You just do what you're told. If you die, then you don't have to worry about all this bullshit. Yeah. Like, because chances are a percentage of those dudes that are going to die over there would have just pulled the trigger over here. And I say that as somebody who's like too cowardly to have pulled the trigger over here.
Right. Well, see, that's why fantasy is so dangerous for you and I, because we don't do either.
Yeah.
We fantasize about the adventure and to the peril of our daily
Well, that's
routine.
why bullying the beta, bullying the nerd, the geek, like Ulysses was doing there. Like, there's actually a pro-social thing to that, because it's like, dude, you ain't doing nothing. Get off your ass. Like, quit being a little bitch about everything. Like, I need to hear that. I need that Chris Gethin sort of like, get off your ass. Like, quit being just whining about everything, and like, are you... And there's something in our culture too that just it loves pity parties. It's just this victim. Like, just so we're just having the battle of who's got the bigger victim card. I have more mental health problems than you. And the one blessing of the whole white men, cis white men can't complain about anything. The one blessing about that is, if you'll listen to that, then it can help you bring you back from the brink. It's one less escape route, like, you can be like, okay, well, what am I going to do about it? Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't want to become like some little frontline soldier for wokeism, but like, if it causes you to go to the gym or to get outside and, start like sweating and bleeding again, then you can start to get a perspective. These screens are powerful, but they're tools, and if we use them, like we said, as building blocks of our psyche, not just as crutches, then we're in trouble.
Well, what is so? I think we have our finger on the problem for me and you. What is the solution?
Okay, let's get there. So Madagascar, man, what is his name again?
Libera
20. Yeah, anyways, Maurice 2020. The will to design, the same managerial methodology of the grid, lies barely concealed beneath the bucolic imaginary of trads, whether of pagan, Catholic, or fascist vintage. Is really well worded. They all want to impose their code, the social manifestation of ideological narcissism. And so they go on talking about this. This is why I think I want to revolt against all these easy solutions. Like I've said before here, rules, steps, guidelines, frameworks, flowcharts are open to gamification and self-own. Or they're open to you becoming a success that that part of you is going to forever resent. There's some part of you that you're burying, some talent that you are burying in someone else's will, basically, that needs to be utilized. Let's skip through that. Okay, so anyways, we've gotten into the weeds. This was a great little word study of that phrase, where it came from. The two primary places where this term has been used is in policy wonks, like in Washington, policy analysts who get down into the nitty gritty of the nomenclature of all these bills, and they get into the weeds and they think of it more like a fun thing, like you really get deep into this research and stuff. Getting into the weeds in the practical restaurant world means that you are so far up to up to your nose in tickets that how are you going to get out of it? So anytime you watch Top Chef, Restaurant Wars, those kind of things, you're in the weeds. And I felt like that so many times since the hurricane, when we were, doing a demolition job or whatever. You get in the weeds. It's just, you don't have enough manpower to deal with it. How the hell do you get out of this mess? Well, we're kind of in the weeds here. Me and you, financially, we're in the weeds. Emotionally, we're in the weeds in terms of where do we start? Because if I'm not going to pick JBP's method or pick your poison, pick your boomer pill to swallow. Like, if you're not going to pick the stoic route out, how do you get out? So Ulysses this week had another interaction, and I'd asked him what this term he was talking. Oh no, it was in one of his posts. Cloud Cuckoo Town was mentioned. It's like, it was all one word, Cloud Cuckoo Town. I was like, what is that? He was talking about Greek. It was Greek poetry. I was like, what the hell is that? He's like, Google Nephelococcygia. So Nephelococcygia means finding patterns in clouds. So I wrote this, and this is not even what he meant. Apparently back in the Greek days, in Aristophanes' Birds Play, they tried to make this new Mount Olympus, which is literally, the term was Nephelococcygia. It's going to be the Cloud Cuckoo Town, where all the birds, it's going to be Mount Olympus for the birds. This is a real thing. Like, this isn't a meme made up this year. Aristophanes wrote a comedy play where the birds revolt against Mount Olympus and try to make their own Mount Olympus called Cloud Cuckoo Town. So I said, I didn't even know there was a term for that. So in addition to being quixotic or chaotic, I am nephelococcygic. Depending on my mood, I see cloud castles or windmill leviathans. I feel, therefore I see. Perhaps the most concise diagnosis of my idealistic pathology, bipolar chicken little. I see demons behind every bush, or I see possibilities behind every bush. Well, Jesus had this saying. He said, the eye is the lamp of the body. So then if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? And it made me realize that I've been doing everything wrong. I've been trying to make the world correspond to what I see, when really I should just show people what I see. And there's a British, I think they're a British cinema company called The Artificial Eye. It always stuck with me, their little brand. And so if you can think of it, like watching a horror movie, you get to peek into Dante's Inferno and see what horrors await. And you also get to see these bucolic vistas of what could possibly be.
What's bucolic mean?
Just this wonderful, pastoral sort of notion of beauty. You can use with this artificial image a way to convey your emotions. And if I see, I feel, therefore I see. Well, just show people what I see. Why am I trying to tell people all the time? And I've been watching movies forever. Show, don't tell. That's the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So a stepping stone to get where I want to be, which is to be beyond this, to be beyond imagery, where we're actually acting. Dance, don't show. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to see us all dancing, not just sitting there watching other people dance, right? I want this to be something that the democratization, screw that term.
I love that term.
But democracy ends up being a shit show because it ends up, appealing to the lowest common denominator's taste. The
dissemination,
the meritocratic democratization, some sort of. Anyways, we'll get to what that term is in a minute. But the idea being that like I should quit just circle jerking up here talking about what I imagine and just show what I imagine. So let's get this act. So Perfume Nationalist, Pugly and Aroma on Instagram, and I can't remember what his newest version is on Twitter. Jack. He posted this. Isabella Rossellini saying, "I do the should, now I do the could." I love it. What we need to do, me and you, is we got to do our should, right? That's the Stoic thing, but we got to reinterpret it through a meme that's going to work for us. And thinking of Isabella Rossellini makes more sense to me. A magnate of the big screen, icon of fashion and beauty. Like I think I could do my should thinking about this more so than thinking about, Epictetus. What a dork. So while in the weeds, here's what I'm going to try to do. I do not recommend everybody try to do this, but this is what I'm going to try to do. While in the weeds, cold turkey consumption break. Instead of slow transition from consumption to creation, as mentioned in the previous monologue on creativity, consumption, and capital in the digital age, I'm going to replace all recreational consumption with research-focused recreational construction. When the chips are down, your imaginative free spirit is your worst enemy. You want to find a way to channel that thing. You don't want to say that it can't do its thing, but you need to put it into a spreadsheet cell. You just have to put it in there. And you let it play around in that spreadsheet cell, but you do not let it get out of there because your free spirit is a terrible accountant. And accountants rule the world, man. You want to blame the politician? You want to blame the Jew? It's the accountant, regardless of ethnicity or religious background or whatever. It's the accountant that rules the world. The spreadsheet runs everything. Mm-hmm. Stop pretending that it's Leviathan or some giant demon. It's the spreadsheet. So either utilize this tool and leverage it for your own ends, or you will be in someone else's spreadsheet. Utilize it. You can't argue with it. It has conquered the world. And the great thing is, Google, for all its territorialization and rule, has given us a free sheets. Just use it. Just use the thing. Jeez, man. So here are my goals. Okay. And I'm not letting myself go outside these goals. God help me.
Okay.
Up well to $100,000 a year instead of having to work side gigs for other people. $100,000 a year in net. After taxes, $100,000 a year. Now, some people will be like, that's way too much money. I don't care. It's way the hell less than Buffett and Munger. You want to go crucify someone? Go try crucify them. It hasn't worked for you yet, has it? They still rule everything, dumbass. So that's my goal. In the meantime, I'm getting lectured by people like Chapo Trap House, who makes $150,000 a month for their shit tier podcast. So $100K a year. I'm not going to apologize for it. And the thing is, all this time, because I've let people bully me because of my religious beliefs into being a commodity in someone else's spreadsheet while they don't practice what they preach. Mm-hmm. So Upwell 100K a year. That's my goal.
Okay.
And that means making whatever. I mean, it means making whatever. Video, audio, voiceover, music, commercials, whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
A happy home instead of autistic dissipation. So I get lost in these little feedback loops. League of Legends is a perfect example. But so many of them, little arguments on Twitter. These things, like I got into an argument on Twitter with somebody last night in the replies to one of our perfume nationalist saints, the Eternal Dillards. And I got into this shouting match, and he said, so the Eternal Dillard said to this other guy, he's like, try to explain this to your Valentine's date and see what she thinks. And I thought it was directed at me. I looked over at Melissa. We're in this Sonic, very romantic evening, Valentine's, in the Sonic drive-through or pull up. And so I showed it to Melissa, and she was like, yeah. If you're here to this Valentine's, then you're on Twitter. Autistic dissipation, like getting into these things that cannot be solved in a minute or 5 or an hour or 10. Instead, make that happy home, like that moment we had when we were in India where Rohan was playing cricket in the kitchen with some friends. Drink chai and play faux cricket inside. Like, even if we don't end up staying in the place that we've just moved into, at least we can have some happy memories. Because that memory was very, it was kind of something to hold on to during some dark days that would come afterwards. Podcast instead of Twitter. I'm still going to be on Twitter, but mainly just post instead of being a reply guy, and focus on my podcast. I've let it kind of go to shit, and obviously we got to rein this in, get out of the weeds.
Okay.
In 2020, like to advance to version 1.0. Like that'll be the goal. So we'll see about trying to make that transition somewhere around the year anniversary, to get to more structured format that still allows some of this kind of crazy wheeling and whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
YouTube money instead of League of Legends. I've had a really bad League of Legends week, and it was wasted a lot of my time. As much as I love the game, I may have to shelve it again forever. So we'll see. I'm not 100% sure on that one. That's the thing about me and you. We're just so optimistic when, even in bad places, like, no, I can make it. I can make it. I can do it. I can do it. I can make it work. Yeah. No, it's okay. But it's like when it's distracting from my son, that's just, it's stupid. It's just so stupid. I became a man. I put away childish things. I got to find some way to preserve my boyish Kuros wonder, but without turning into this Arrested Development idiot. So there's some definite crux there. Surfing and violin. So if I want to talk about my free spirit, I won't play violin because I just hate listening to myself. I think I sound like shit. Because I know. I mean, my taste has been finely honed, and I know that I sound terrible. But I'm better at that than I'll ever be at League of Legends. So I might as well just do it. I got the reaction time. I can do stuff. Like, I can play. Like, just stop burying my talent. It's just stupid. It's insipid. And surfing, I know my goal now. I always shoot too high. I was trying to go to, like do airs and get barreled. And around here, this is just, it's just too inconsistent to try to make that happen. But one thing I can do is be ready for the one day this year that one break breaks, where it gets to be, taller than this ceiling and barrels. And I've seen no picture. I've seen one, I think maybe Shea Lopez or Corey Lopez, a pro surfer from, they were actually on the world tour and stuff. I think they got it. Maybe one other dude from the East Coast. There was one picture one time where a guy got barreled out there that I remember seeing. I can't find it now. But that wave goes unridden because nobody really locally has figured out how to really tap into its majesty. So That's my goal. I tried it once on the last swell. I at least found the peak again. I caught one wave, but I wasn't in the right position. So that's a maintainable goal and gives me something to shoot for. And it scares me. So I was scared to death. The biggest swell of the decade in 2008, 2007. It scared the hell out of me, and so I'm kind of stuck in that moment as far as the manly, face your fears things go. So I need to be able to look at that thing, take it on the head, and just see what happens. So I need to do it. So and doing that instead of fighting and dancing, those are things I'd like to do in the future, but I just need to focus. I might do, like, if the surf's flat, I might still do some boxing with the punching bag with some friends, just street beef style, just to keep us honed, but not really make it a high priority. Not like try to go do an official MMA fight or something like that. Just keep it like backyard sort of stuff as for physical fitness, and maybe getting some angst out. I did it with my buddy Logan this week. We threw a couple punches at each other. He caught me with the hook in my ear, and I got him with maybe one cross. But we were kind of both like holding back. We didn't want to let fully go. So that, and then finally filmmaking instead of film and TV watching. We're cutting out Netflix, HBO, Amazon Prime.
Wow.
We're going cold turkey here. So trying to be more creative.
Okay.
So all that, and then I'm putting this little buffer on the side over here. And these are things to remind me, like, let's say by some miracle I've done all those things in a week. And incrementalism here is what we're looking for. Little tiny, just piggy bank.
This is what
piggy
I'm
bank.
interested in.
Yeah,
Yes.
the piggy bank, right? Let's just put like one util of human action into this in an incremental hedge bet. These things on the right are just like my buffer so that I don't play League of Legends. So I got to do all these things before I play League. Cartoon characters with the kids. So me and Satya, we did this little animation thing, Jeffrey and Bidlau, back before we went to India. And I loved it. Like, I go back, I actually quote this thing that we did. Really inspired a lot by Homestar Runner. I love what they did. So do that kind of thing with my kids. Like, we got the tools now make what they had even look primitive. Like, the tools are just, Adobe's got some really good stuff. Character Animator is amazing. It does so much of the work for you. Yeah, it's such a step up from Flash. Dude, it's sick. So the fact I'm not using that when I got it sitting there and I've got the subscription, it's just dumb. It's just, that's again, like just burying my talents, burying my resources. Again, so much of this stuff we blame on capital. It's like, we've got things that we could be using and we just sit on them. And the enemy, Leviathan's giving it to you for practically free, dude. Like, practically for free. It's crazy, the technology that we have. I got RPG Maker VX and MV, so I want to do my own RPG. Maybe it's attached to one of my original songs. I don't know. And then I want to do one with the kids utilizing the characters we've made. There you go.
Okay.
Simple. Simple starting point. Fights a la Street Beefs for TikTok. So
What does that mean?
So Street Beefs is a YouTube channel. They basically do MMA or boxing just in a backyard, and they just let these guys go. It's like regulation rules, and these guys are hacks, hardly know how to fight, but they end up, I think, kind of building up. It's kind of a starting point. It's like,
wait, you want to do one of these?
Yeah, but more informal than even them. So more like Kimbo Slice's backyard, but with TikTok. And so basically we just, it's TikToks that needs to be under a minute. And so you got a minute to try to knock the other guy out.
I will fly down to Florida and join a surfing violinist Street Beef.
Okay. We need to come up with our own name. So I was thinking about Florida Man Hip Hop instead of World Star Hip Hop, something like that. Something, like we really try to, and I was thinking even like making it a little bit K-fob, whereas like, I get, yeah. I mean, we might like get a little spicy, see what we can do. Like, I act like I'm a racist against my Filipino friend, and call him a beaner or something like that. And he's like, dude, I'm Filipino. He beats the shit out of me. Like let's play it up a little bit, but real blood and none of this, fake stuff. Just try not to die. I was thinking maybe we're fighting on the beach because the sand is pretty soft. That might be a good option. Like, grass is actually. It's a little rough sometimes, you know.
I can't stand sand though. Like it's so
but it'd be
hard
so
to
Florida
fight
man.
on sand.
You know, be so
It
Florida
would be.
man. So we probably need to find some sand where there's actually some pine trees in the back, so you get that little Florida man sort of feel. Pine trees and palm trees. Coastal Country Club says surfing is hundreds of hours of commitment for a few seconds of payoff on the East Coast. Dude, it's even worse on the Gulf Coast. Even worse. Rohit said Ford, Star Wars or Star Trek? Star Trek, all day, baby. Although not Picard. Garbage tier. I mean, it might be as bad as Last Jedi. I don't know. So it might be as bad. Picard is horrible. Okay, the other two things, collabs with channels like Pacao TV. They asked me to do a collab, so I filmed my green screen stuff. No, they haven't got it out yet. Okay. Shooting parties, not like shooting guns, but shooting video parties with Chai. So maybe do some sketch comedy stuff. There's a guy, Matt Green. I am like huge fan of this dude's acting. He does a lot of movie criticism and stuff. And as far as I know, he hasn't been doing any acting recently. I think he's dynamite. He's better on camera than I am. So I want to get some of these local guys who've got chops. That's a part of the problem, is that we've just been so conditioned to think that, you know, you're not good until you have an agent or someone's discovered you. Yeah. It's like bullshit. Like, man, Picard, that new show, the Star Trek show I just mentioned, dude, the chick on screen with Picard in this last episode, or the next to last episode we just watched, she's worse than Foggy in Netflix, in Daredevil. Like, I don't understand how these people have an agent, how they're on the big screen. This is CBS. This is like, I mean, this is a big budget deal. And she cannot hold his shoelace. All right. She is so horrible.
Oh, wow.
Some of the worst on-screen acting I have ever seen in my life. My daughter, not even trying, as a 2-year-old, did a better job. It's so bad, man. It makes me vehemently angry. And so, you know, like, if I can phone in a performance better than that, then I might as well just be doing it. You know, at least just to hone my skills. So shooting parties with Chai, you know. So these are the things to buffer me against my temptation. Like, I'm not uninstalling League. So my version of the Odysseus situation is League is still installed. It's right there. Baby. It's right there. Just one Renekton match. You know you want to eat Teemo alive. Just one, baby. So it's just sitting there, just waiting. So I'm going to leave in there, and I'm going to be, but these are the cords that are going to tie me to the mast. So how we get out of this shit, Everyday Hero's Journey. I'm reading this book, In the Dark Places of Wisdom. It's such a perfect arrangement for wisdom to hide away in death. Everyone runs from death, so everyone runs away from wisdom, except for those who are willing to pay the price and go against the stream. Parmenides' journey takes him in exactly the opposite direction from everything we value, out of life as we know it and straight towards what we fear most of all. Jesus said, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Then the Apostle Paul later said, I die daily. Christians, I grew up in the evangelical Christian church. Christians always take this in this sort of like platitude of Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And again, it's pastoral, it's bucolic. You know, it's footprints in the sand. Jesus is just going to carry you through all your problems. This is what it looks like on the right, Event Horizon. Lawrence Fishburne going into hell willingly and facing his utter terror. And it doesn't look like a horror movie in real life. It looks like a spreadsheet, because that's where hell is.
Honestly, when you said I need to do a spreadsheet, I cringed. I fought against it physically. I felt a physical revulsion to the idea.
For me and you, for any free-spirited dude, hell is a spreadsheet. We got to go there. Everyday Hero's Journey. So here's the treacly pastoral notions of chicken soup for the soul, Christianity or religion in the left. Oh, I saw 2 footprints in the sand that gave way to one. And the Lord revealed to me that one set of footprints during my darkest time was Jesus carrying me all the time. And here's Jesus, you know, with Psalm 23, the Lord's my shepherd. Oh, look at these, you know, sweet sheep. Everyone forgets what, like, is in half of that. The thing is, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You think the valley of the shadow of death looks like that, idiot? No, look, it looks like on the right. It looks like Hellraiser's climax. Got the Cinemites over there stuffing, you know, their hand down this girl's throat. You got Sam Neill from Event Horizon, eyeless. You've got what's her name from Possession with Sam Neill being possessed. You've got down here the temptation side of the whole thing. Salome and Herod just begging for John the Baptist's head. That's a weird movie. It's got Tim Curry playing. Someone shared on Twitter, Falstaff and some other dude this week. So it's called Salome's Last Dance, and it's about Salome, the one that tempted Herod to cut off John the Baptist's head. And there's a scene where she's tempting John the Baptist. It's like, kiss me, John the Baptist. And she's all up in his face and being very sensual. And the way he resists her is exactly what we're talking about. Like a dude kills himself. It's such a weird, like this guy, the suitor is like, it's either me or him. And she's like, who cares about you? And the guy kills himself. And the soldier's like, it's like kind of like a farce. The soldier comes up and is like, Madame Salome, this man just killed himself right in front of you. I don't care. Kiss me, John the Baptist. And then John the Baptist is like, no, I will resist your temptation. And meanwhile, Tim Curry is sitting there like, as Oscar Wilde on the couch is like, It's so weird. But that's it. That's the kind of vision of hell it ain't this shit on the left. And then we've got Videodrome on the right. Can't really see. That's Debbie Harry's Blondie's mouth on screen, and James Woods is starting to enter her TV. Boy, that scene is that's the hell we inhabit right there. Is the seventh layer of Dante's Inferno, Videodrome, porn hell. All of that, we have to make the choice, and it is tempting to give in. As I said one more time, excruciating temptation, horror, death, and rebirth daily. We have to make that decision every day to open up that friggin' spreadsheet. God help me. Somewhere in all the white noise, a flower grows, says anarchist Dalek.
All right. What are we going to do today?
Well, I'm playing a wedding, so that's as hellish to me as it gets, buddy. Playing violin at a wedding. So that's my die daily today.
How about this? When you open a spreadsheet, I will open a spreadsheet and we'll share it with each other.
Oh, shit. Ah!
I know. I don't want to do it. Because then I have to write something.
Oh, shit. Basically, I know what's going to happen, dude. We're going to have to scrum. That's what all the people in the tech industry do. God,
what does that even mean?
They got this board, man. They got this board. It's got the Post-it notes, and it's got like these, it's order of urgency, the task that needs to be completed. And so you use Post-it notes and then put it, and you move it from one bar to the next.
Yeah.
So the
like
way
Trello.
Oh, yeah. It's Trello. Yeah, it's Trello, but you can do it in spreadsheet form where you just, it really helps you kind of stay on task, but it is so...
Can you share it with me and I'll copy it?
Probably we should just start with a simple spreadsheet.
Just a
like
blank
you're saying.
spreadsheet?
Just a blank spreadsheet. Okay. And basically what we need to do is what Seinfeld said, I'm not going to have time to think about this week. I'm sorry. But we let us, now that we kind of have this as the idea, we'll need to have a spreadsheet that's like Seinfeld said. It needs to start off very basic. So for me, I will have these basic. I'm such an idiot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 things. I will have to have super basic. I will have to have. Oh shit! There needs to be another one though, because I won't do it.
What are you doing?
Budgeting instead of. What
are you gonna get rid of?
What do I do on this? Budgeting. What do I do on this phone other than Twitter? I need to look at my screen time thing and figure out what it is. What is my other escape valve?
Is it like do you go on
YouTube consumption? Yeah, okay. YouTube consumption. That's what it is. All right. Okay. So I will have a spreadsheet with 13 cells.
Okay.
And I need to put an X in them daily. Eventually, at the beginning, we will not have time to do a description because otherwise you won't do it.
No.
It's just going to be honor system. I did it. It was 5 minutes, but I did it. Okay. And so I'll have my 13 and literally 5 minutes, 1 minute, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that's it.
Okay.
So
starting next week.
Yeah, let's just kind of mull it over this week, and if I get some time, I'll put it in. I'll put mine together, and then eventually, here's what's the great thing is I figured out how to use Google Forms, where you can, when we get to a little more complicated, you can literally just have a drop down menu of your 13 things. Click the one of your things that you're working on at that moment, and you can clock in on that, and you have another form to clock out on it. And so it will timestamp when you do it. And so then that will be a little more, because again, we're having to do battle with Leviathan where they get all this big data knowledge that we are not privy to. And so having some small data knowledge to figure out where we're screwing up and not being as efficient as Leviathan. Jesus said, unless your righteousness surpasses the scribes and Pharisees, you will not see God. Well, unless our efficiency surpasses Leviathan, we will only be a cell in its spreadsheet. That's it. And Leviathan is a spreadsheet. It's not the Rothschilds or some other bullshit. It's an autonomous spreadsheet that's just out of control. All right. It's a database that's out of control. So a Kanban board. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's it. That's what it is.
It's a Kanban board.
Kanban. How do you say that? I don't know. Kanban board. It's like I believe. I don't know who came up with it, but I feel like it might be
Google it.
It might be derived from a Japanese time management strategy thing. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Taylor said, "I'm 100% down to being a Florida manhandle." Florida manhandle. Florida manhandle. That's it. The panhandle.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah! Because we always get lumped in with Central and South Florida. Let's screw those guys. All right. We need to be our own state. Y'all can keep Tallahassee. Everything from Bristol over is us, baby. Florida manhandle. Dude, that's it right there. Hell yeah. Taylor was actually in we did a little video one day at work when I was still doing the construction stuff. Yeah. And it was Hyper Tough, Walmart's little imprint for their tools. And they're so cheap looking. It's like, I went up to one of the guys. I went up to the dude. I was like, one of our other guys, and I was like, "Are you tired of being a pussy?" And he's like, "I ain't never been a pussy." I go to tell him, "Are you tired of being a pussy?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, he's always been a pussy." And so I give him Hyper Tough. I can't remember what the log line was. We did all this on the phone too, and then he's like, does the Wolverines thing, but he's like, Hyper Tough. It was good, man. That was one of our finest moments. Did not get any views. Like, come on, dude. Come on, internet. Jeez, I'm sick of you, dude.
Wait, where was that posted?
That's a good question. Twitter, I think. I just posted it to Twitter and Instagram. There was a couple links in here. Sorry, dudes. Didn't get to them. We were like in full. I'm afraid what this link is going to be. Extreme burping in public, 9 with friends. Oh, okay, that's pretty good. That might be that might be a good. Thanks, Landon.
You went straight to it. You're showing everybody what it is.
Oh, I got jebaited. Thank you, Visax. Where would we be without the internet? I got jebaited.
Well, I don't know what that means.
What a dork, dude. Oh, man.
I'm the normie.
Okay, so there you go. Right. I think we've got our marching orders then.
Yeah.
We got this. So
because the week will give me, because you already have all this written out. I have to think of my 15 things or whatever.
Yeah, and these have been honed through the fire and the flame over the last 5 years. I've realized what really is my true north. I want to make movies. Like that's what it comes down to. That I need to be able to do that before I get to the making video games part, which I think will be further down the road. And then I need to be able to do that before I make my ultimate movie, which would be Day of the Baphomets, Spring Outbreak, the horror porn. What do you call it? Ballet.
Okay.
So in order to get to that action ballet, the horror porn action ballet, Dante's Inferno, but happy. So it's the Divine Comedy, but set in a mall. So that's like 30 years out probably.
Okay. Well, I think this is a turning point for it. I think this is a turning point.
Got to do it.
We're getting
pivotal moment.
This is the pivotal moment where this is the lead up to 1.0.
This is the lead up to 1.0. I never would have thought it would come down to a spreadsheet, but got to do what you got to do, man. Got to face Sam Neill in the Event Horizon.
But you know what? It makes it more exciting. A spreadsheet by myself sounds like torture, but it makes it more exciting doing it with you.
If we have see, and that's where, thank God for that little thing. Like, who was it that mentioned the? What was it that we checked?
The Kanban?
It was Don Mexler. Thanks to this random dude on Twitter, Odysseus tied to the mast method.
Yes.
That's it, baby. That's it. Odysseus tied to the mast. And this is why I really believe, I did make public my Bronze Age pervert review today, where I basically come out in full support of Bronze Age mindset, because I feel like art is going to be a more actionable heuristic frame building block than sheer philosophical or psychological or spiritual gobbledygook, or if-thens or rules. Like that right there, I see that. Odysseus tied to the mast. And I'm like, okay, so the you holding me accountable, we're both Odysseus in our own stories, but I am the guy with the wax for you, and you're the guy with the wax for me. There you go.
Let's do it.
Yes. Rohit asks, any plans of doing Bollywood content soon? Yes. And the next iteration of the Surfing Violinist, once we transition out of this 0.0, I finally have what I've lacked with my based Bollywood thing has been a visual framework. So the building this light was my first step in that direction. I put this curtain up over here behind the bed, since we're not living in this room anymore. So I've got like a visual motif, a mise en scène, if you will, that I'm going to work on. I'm going to experiment with a shoot for a friend of mine, Juan Taco. He does my favorite tacos like ever. So we're going to do another video for him, and I want to try to do a test with him in front of this new lighting setup with the curtain. And I think it'll work. The one I've written for Sholay, the base Bollywood I've written for Sholay, is like 20 minutes long, and it ended up being very pivotal for me. It kind of like made me realize that the time in India could be redeemed after all, like in terms of a thank you, for all that we learned over there. And then also, I don't know, we just came back kind of bitter because it just, nothing worked out. It wasn't y'all's fault. It was because of you we even made it. Zymer Tracks 2156, thank you for the follow. But I just, there was so much pain associated with the shipwrecking of that dream to live over there. I mean, our son was born over there, and we had nothing. I was a free-spirited idiot. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no business sense. And so I think that this is a way to honor Bollywood, honor India, honor you guys who've stuck around this whole time, and hopefully can build up to something else without being, because one of my problems is so much of the stuff that ends up catering to like T-series or Bollywood market ends up being very cringy and in my opinion, kind of a, I don't know. I don't want to question people's methods. Like it's just not my style. Like it feels too, it feels like I was when I first went to India.
Okay.
It feels it's enthusiastic, but it's like you need to curb your enthusiasm. It feels like you need a little bit of Larry David in there. And so when I was writing Sholay, I realized how much of my Indian experience was tied up in this one scene from Sholay. I named my son after one of these characters. I kind of forget about that. His middle name is literally the pet name for one of our protagonists in that movie. And I go back and watch that movie, and I still have the same visceral reaction to this one scene. There are probably 100 scenes in cinema, and eventually I'll probably just do a whole series on this once we're out of the woods, out of the weeds. But 100 scenes in cinema that have changed my life irrevocably, like I could never see the world the same way again. Like when I walked out of the theater after Traffic, I was a different human being. Inception had happened, the world had changed in an instant. And so this moment in Sholay for me did that. And that's a testament to how strong that movie was in the history of Bollywood. But it's hard for people outside of Bollywood to somehow to get that translation. Like it doesn't work. Like it doesn't cross the gap. So I'm hoping that this series not only appeals to Indians, but helps outsiders understand Bollywood a little better. And so that the industry can, I do feel that Bollywood is stuck in a rut in the same way that Hollywood is, where it's just kind of doing the same things over and over. And so I want to see it grow, and I want to see it, break boundaries and stuff like that. And hopefully this will help.
I think a good test. I don't know. A good, what do they call it? Control group, because I don't get Hollywood.
Right. And so hopefully, it'll be like that. I think this whole, post 2016 frog Twitter based, toxic masculinity thing ended up proving the perfect foil or the perfect interpretive key for me to understand. Like one day I just went off and I listed out 100 music videos from Bollywood that I liked that fit this sort of like frog Twitter sort of vibe, that fits Bronze Age pervert and fits just some of it's like post cringe enthusiasm, I guess, you could call it post Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah. So, so I think that there's something there to be mined, and eventually I want to do a Bollywood movie. I got a script for this movie, Bharat Chai Stand. I think it could actually work, kind of in the same way that movies like the Raid Redemption worked, where it would work in the local culture but without like feeling like some outsider's misinterpretation, but would also work in the global market. So I'm hoping that may, come back to life at some point. So base Bollywood will be the starting point. And if I can get that, baby steps, but if I can get base Bollywood, that's my, in this little formula here, YouTube money instead of league, base Bollywood is the first thing in that tier. And then, I would like to do Holly Bolly, honest trailers potentially, or maybe the Holly Bolly paper pals, those little paper cutouts, where now I can work on acting with those. I can do a little more fictional writing with those, and they're low investment. So those are some possible ideas. But yeah, base Bollywood is coming. The light was what I was working on this week for that, because what I'm trying to get is, anyway, you'll see, I'm trying to get shafts of light to kind of look like a more mise-en-scène version of Roger Ebert's thing that he had going, where they were sitting in a theater, him and Siskel, and they were talking about movies. Trying to go for maybe a little artier version of that kind of thing, with light on my face and like a projected image and the black behind me, that I don't have to worry about the copyright issues, because if it's on a sheet and kind of then it won't be as likely to get copyright flagged, images of Amitabh and stuff. So anyways, that's pretty much it.
All right.
So thank you all. I know it has not been a chat interactive day. It's was trying to get through this. So onward and upward. Let's get to version 1.0 this year.
Let's do it.
All right.
Spreadsheets. Go to spreadsheet.
Go to spreadsheet. Go to hell. There's no dancing. No dancing, because you're going to the spreadsheet. So we'll get to the dancing afterwards. Go to the spreadsheet. From the bottom of my heart, I salute you. And
bottom of my heart, I salute you.
Keep it creative, cross-cultural, and constructive within the appropriate cell on your spreadsheet. For the time being. It's not going to always be that way. All right. Godspeed, lords and ladies.